Separated by cosmic cabinets, Brandon and Paul are broadcasting the Breakdown podcast live using their telepathic powers. My name is Brandon Miracle, broadcasting live from the Break Room Arcade. If you look to the right of me in the video version, you'll see the wonderful face of Paul Anderson, broadcasting live from the Break Room Clubhouse. Logan couldn't be with us today. He is experiencing some medical problems. Nothing serious, just causing him some discomfort, and we didn't want to put him through that on the show. So, wish Logan some happy health, because I know what it feels like to, you know, not feel good, as I'm sure all of you do. So with all that in mind, we got a lot to talk about today. This is the 28th episode of Breakdown Podcast, broadcast live on August 27th.
Where did the time even go with all of this? Like, crap, man.
Yeah, it really doesn't feel like we've really been doing it this long, but yet here we are. That said, before we get into the show, we have an announcement to make about the Breakdown Podcast. We discussed this actually just a couple hours ago, but we've come to the decision to make the Breakdown Podcast a bi-weekly show. Doing 2 podcasts a week is actually a lot of work. You can ask Paul about that. He does all the back end.
It's a lot of work.
To put it in perspective, like, you know, he types up all of the stuff we talk about during the show, adds all the links to all those things. If you go to like the website, or if you go to like Apple Podcasts, you can see just how much he has to do to make it happen.
I don't think people actually go to the web. I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure people don't actually go to the website. So I might just be doing it for myself. But I did have the major accomplishment when we started this off. The website was originally like 6 pages deep when you search for the Break Room Arcade on Google. And now we're on the first page, top 3 results.
Number 1, baby.
Number 3.
Number 3 is the same as number 1 to me. I'll take a bronze medal. So yeah, with all that in mind, we'll get into the main show, starting with movies and TV. This is actually kind of a heftier week for me. In past weeks, I haven't had as much time, but I did a lot. Starting off. Oh, hey, Logan. I told Paul before the show that you better be watching the show live.
I really wanted to make that my ringtone after you said that, because it was just kind of priceless.
Let's see. So, Castlevania. I watched the first season of the Castlevania show on Netflix. Obviously, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has really piqued my interest in the Castlevania series. Something I've always wanted to delve into, but now I feel like I have more reason to with Smash Brothers. Same thing happened with Bayonetta and Fire Emblem and Metroid, actually. So
that's the best thing about Smash Brothers. Like, where would Fire Emblem be in America without Smash Brothers?
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at a character like Roy, and Roy wasn't even in a game yet by the time his character was released in Melee. He was literally a walking advertisement.
I mean, after all of that, like, that's kind of why I want ARMS representation, because I feel like the series kind of needs that boost, but...
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully we get an ARMS 2. At the very least, I want an ARMS 2 so that we can push that series forward. Give me that single-player mode I really wanted. That said, Castlevania Season 1 is only 4 episodes long. I was under the impression that it was an anime, but upon watching it, it looks more like Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh.
Where it's like kind of anime style, but it's
influenced by anime, but not quite.
Yeah. I could be wrong about that, but that was the impression I had when watching it. That said, the animation is really good. It is a very pretty show to watch. For those of you who don't know, it's based on Castlevania 3, which is the earliest in the timeline we have in the main series of games. Centers around Trevor Belmont. I think he's the great-grandfather of Simon.
And how many Fire Emblem games was he in?
All of them, actually.
Oh, wow.
He's the last secret unlockable unit in every Fire Emblem game. And Logan says it's a U.S. studio, so okay, so I was kind of on the money with that. Like I said, it's only 4 episodes. The first episode is entirely dedicated to giving you Dracula's backstory, and why he is imposing his wrath upon the world in the first place. And it's really compelling. There's a very human story behind, you know, his motives, which I think is pretty cool, considering his mortal enemy is humans. So to see him have a human conviction is a pretty neat spin on the whole thing. You don't even get to meet Trevor Belmont until episode 2, so he doesn't get a lot of screen time in that sense. But
this isn't about you, Trevor. Okay.
If you are like, how should I say this? If you don't respond well to gore, if you get queasy, or anything like that, maybe don't watch this show. There's a scene where Trevor, using the vampire killer, he whips a priest in the face and knocks his eyeball out of his head.
Oh, wow. Excuse me. Well, we good.
Yeah. So it is pretty gory, but the action's really cool. I think the story's really neat. You meet a very, very fan favorite character at the end of season 1, and if you know anything about Castlevania 3, you already probably know who that is. So, that's that. 4 episodes. I really enjoyed it, and it felt like the tipping point for the show, or like, the real plot was about to start right when the season ended.
Good timing.
I know, but we got 8 episodes coming out here in October. So hopefully we'll get through the rest of that story. And
how long were the episodes?
20 minutes.
Were they? Okay. That's marginally disappointing. I was hoping that since it was like 4 episodes, it'd be a little bit longer, but
yeah, it's kind of disappointing. Logan says it's Frederator Studios behind Fairly Odd Parents, Adventure Time, and Bravest Warriors. Though the animation style is much different, or the art style.
Yeah, that's not exactly the team I would expect to have made Castlevania.
No, me neither, but I'd highly recommend you watch it, especially if you don't have any experience with Castlevania, because this is a cool way to kind of get invested.
Wow, I don't have experience with Castlevania.
Wow, Paul, you're the target audience.
I feel targeted.
On top of that, I've watched a little bit more Community. I am on season 6, episode 6, so not a lot left to go. Still enjoying it. I am sad that the end is nigh. Hashtag 6 seasons in a movie.
I just need the movie now.
I keep talking
I've been waiting for so long.
I can't imagine. Actually, I was talking to Josiah about Community, and he watched it while it was originally airing, so like I feel like I'm kind of cheating because I don't have to wait as long as everybody else because I came in so late. But
it's whatever, as you're watching it now, and that's the important thing. It doesn't matter if you started like here when everybody else was
way back in the abyss.
Yeah. You're here now.
I am here. Still enjoying it, and looking forward to watching the rest. On top of that, I saw the Happy Time Murders yesterday morning, I want to say it was. This is a raunchy Muppet movie. It's a noir-like film featuring a retired cop, now personal investigator, who teams up with his old police partner in order to take down the murderer of the Happy Time Gang. And the Happy Time Gang is a television show from like a million years ago that gets revived in the present day, kind of, mirroring what's happening today with all these shows getting revivals. And one of the characters on the show is actually portrayed by the brother of the main character, or the main puppet police PI guy. And he is quickly murdered. He is the first of the Happy Time Gang to be killed. And that sets up his personal involvement with the case, his getting out of retirement case, I guess you would say. Don't bring your kids to this movie. I'm not going to get too deep into why you shouldn't, but I shouldn't have to if you've seen the trailer.
Watch the trailer if you're not sure why. If you see the trailer and you still take your kids, You did it to yourself. It's your own fault, and I don't feel sorry for you.
We don't need another Deadpool situation. It was so funny. I forgot Joel McHale is in this movie. And he shows up like a quarter or maybe halfway through the film. And I noticed when he first showed up, and my wife is sitting to the right of me, and he's like on screen for like 2 minutes maybe before they do a close-up on him, and I just hear her go, realizing it's Joel McHale from Community. It was really funny to me because as soon as I saw him on screen, I was like, she's gonna gasp. I'm waiting for it. Wasn't expecting it to take so long, but eventually she gasped. So here's the thing about Happy Time Murders. This movie has been very awfully received in the critical eye, and they're not too off the mark. It's not a great movie by any means. Like, the first half an hour to an hour, a lot of the jokes were like shock value jokes, which works in some cases. It's been done before with puppets. I mean, like, this isn't anything new or earth-shattering, and that's fine. I still had a good time with it. There's a couple scenes at the beginning. I can't talk about it. This is a PG show. If you like that kind of stuff, maybe give it a watch. If you like puppets in the Muppet Studios, definitely give it a watch. They do a little reel at the end during the end credits showing you how they got a lot of the shots. And it's really cool what they do to make the, you get full body shots of the Muppets like walking down the street and stuff. And the way they do that kind of stuff is really neat. So definitely give it a watch if you're into puppeteering and that kind of thing.
But all in all, like, it's not as unwatchable as the review scores make it seem.
No, I don't think it's unwatchable. It's kind of campy in some places, but, it is what it is. I watched it for free. Like, I'm on A-list, so I didn't have to pay for it necessarily.
I mean, you were always on my A-list, so...
I do have a sad story in regards to that, though. As you know, I have type 1 diabetes. So sometimes I have medical problems, and I need to address them. And one such moment was during the movie where I had to leave the theater, go to the bathroom, and take care of some stuff. I come back, and it's the falling action, and I missed the entire climax.
Oh, dang, man.
Yes, and so I know what happened because Mchale told me afterwards, but I didn't get to see it for myself. So that kind of sucked.
That's really disappointing.
Yeah, it hurt too because I went to the restroom, checked my phone to see what time it was, and it was 11 or it was like 12:30, and the movie started at 11:30, and I was like, oh, it's only been an hour. Apparently, it took me a while to come back because I had missed the entire ending of the movie. And I want to say it's like an hour and a half long, so, like, either I don't remember how to read numbers right, or I was gone for an eternity.
Maybe it's a little bit of both.
I went to the bathroom, took care of things, and came right back, as far as I recall. But maybe I didn't. But that said,
may never know.
Logan kind of sets it straight. He says it was shooting for the Sausage Party demographic, another subpar film. It's not as, like, in your face as Sausage Party is. I watched that movie a second time and absolutely hated it.
Good times, right?
I don't think that would happen with this one necessarily, but I'm not nearly as compelled to see it again anyway. But take that as you will. And that's what I watched this week.
Well, all right. Starting off for me this week, I watched Laggies, I think is how it's pronounced. They said it once in the entire film. So I'm actually still not sure why it's titled as it is.
Never heard of this one.
Well, I was going through Netflix, right? And I found a tab that was critically acclaimed films. And so I'm kind of scrolling through that. And I found Keira Knightley in the movie. And I'm like, well, it's decided. I'm watching the movie with Keira Knightley. She's very pretty. So
it's a good reason.
The movie starts off, and Keira Knightley's character, what her name actually. Megan.
Megan.
So Megan's working for her dad, who's an accountant. She stands outside of his office, just kind of twirling signs for tax advice. And you find out a little bit later on that like she's gotten a very advanced degree in like psychology, and that she's really only doing that because she's not really sure what else she should be doing with her life. She hasn't really found the direction or the thing that makes her truly happy.
Okay.
And so you start to see her interacting with some of her other best friends that, you know, they show like fond memories like them back in high school, going to prom, and just like, you get the sense that they'd be friends forever, but you start to see like this friendship crumble in their adult age because there's this one person who's kind of lagging behind and doesn't quite know what they're doing when everybody else is getting married, and they're very sure-footed, and so they kind of look down on her for that. In the midst of all of this, they're at a wedding for one of the like 4 friends, and her and her boyfriend, who have been together since like prom,
okay,
he decides that it's appropriate at someone else's wedding to propose just out of the blue.
No, you don't do that.
To his credit, I think he did ask permission from the bride.
That's still not a good thing to do.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, that didn't go over very well for him because she doesn't know what she's doing, and you get the sense that she also doesn't really care for the friend group that she's in. So she gets sent outside immediately after he proposes, and she's just kind of like, "Whoa, I don't know," and she catches her dad cheating on her mom.
Oof. Bad timing.
So she, yeah, so she rushes out of the wedding to just kind of catch her breath and you know, try and calm herself down.
Mm-hmm.
And so she makes the excuse that I'm going to put, you know, rose petals in the bridal suite. She pulls up to this gas station and gets ready to go in, and a group of teenagers approaches her at her, you know, we all forgot our IDs. Can you believe it? But we're trying to get a 6-pack of alcohol. Can you hook us up? And so, like, seeing herself in their shoes, she decides that, like, as a rite of passage, she will go ahead and get them their beer. And afterwards, they end up just kind of inviting her to hang out.
Okay.
And this all spirals into her eventually, to avoid her fiance, she ends up kind of like moving in with one of the girls. She like lies and says she's going to a conference for like self-development. And then she just like hides out at this girl's house.
Wow. That was not going where I was expecting.
I know. It's a really interesting film. Like, I don't want to give away the rest of it because that's really just the start and like how the it builds itself up.
Mm-hmm.
But
how old
if you have time, if you're on Netflix, like definitely watch this.
How old is the main character?
I'm gonna guess 30s. I think she'd gotten like a master's,
so
and then
it's almost like a coming of age movie for someone who's already grown up.
Yeah,
I like that.
Me too. It definitely, like, I had no idea what to expect going into this, but it's definitely something very relatable. You know, I think we've had this conversation before, but sometimes after you get done with college, like, you expect to just kind of figure out what you're doing along the way, and that's not always how it works. No. I still don't know what I'm doing with my life, and so I saw a lot of myself in this movie.
Should take a moment to mention, if you're in that boat, so is everybody else. Like, yeah, that's nothing to be ashamed of. So don't worry about it.
Life doesn't figure itself out.
Yeah, you look at people who might seem like really successful on the outside, but they're probably going through, you know, the same kind of emotions that you're going through, just maybe in a different scale.
What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
Yeah. Like, I imagine there are CEOs out there who are just feeling the exact same thing, you know, raking in like 6 figures a year, but not knowing what they're doing with their life.
I still like I go into work every day and I can't even give a description of what my job is half the time. Like, what do I even do for a living?
Nothing to be ashamed of. Logan says, but you're podcasting, Paul. That's right.
I like where you're at, Logan.
We figured out
Like
this
where you
part
come
of our
from.
lives. Mostly.
Yeah. This is the better part anyway, so
There you go.
I never said that.
In reference to your next movie, I have a quick story I'm going to tell before we get into that. I was supposed to see
Please
this
do.
over the weekend. I was supposed to go yesterday. There was a screening in Rockford with a post-panel, panel discussion. But the entire weekend's worth of showings for the movie sold out. All of them.
Having seen it, I completely understand why.
Tell-
Especially being in Rockford for that.
So break it down.
Hey. So it's a documentary kind of following this group of skater kids and their kind of turbulent lives as they're growing up in our hometown of Rockford. It's weird to watch, especially because like I'm from there and I know a lot of these like locations and whatnot. But it's a hard movie to watch because I'm very empathetic towards people and their struggles, and it kind of not directly related to a lot of what they were going through, but like a lot of the characters' backstories, a lot of the people's backstories were broken homes and abuse, and they kind of found their way out of that through skating and forming these bonds with other skater kids and kind of forming a second family, which is something I relate to a lot. Not necessarily that I was abused or I found freedom in skateboarding, but like video games was a really good outlet for me, and I was depressed a lot, and so I was able to find other gamers and make friends and kind of build this other family,
Right.
the Break Room family.
Hey.
So it's a real interesting watch. Really good film and a very like stark look at our hometown, and I think some of it is kind of universal. A lot of people kind of go through what these characters went through and can kind of relate to it, and hopefully it inspires them to find something that will connect them to other like-minded people.
For sure, and I think that's what made this movie so successful on a countrywide scale.
Yeah.
Because this movie's like killing the festivals, killed Sundance. That's a pretty big achievement for a film that came out of our hometown.
Yeah, definitely. One of the not odd, but like one of the things I really liked about this movie was that the director himself also told his own story. He didn't just like find these people and start documenting them. He was part of this. He also was abused growing up. And so he was telling his own story, and you got the sense that it was more for like catharsis for him to kind of work out the issues that were still lingering inside him and to help him move on from everything he experienced. I don't know, it's a trippy watch, man.
I kind of like that as a director that he, had so much introspective on his own life and was a part of the story, which probably makes the storytelling for the particular story he's telling very rich.
Yeah.
Because he knows it.
Well, there are parts where like one of the situations is that he's starting to see kind of like the signs of abuse that like he grew up with in one of his friends, and who's like starting a family. He just has a kid at the start of the film, and his baby mama. And so he's also trying to like balance that out and like get perspective and just make sure hey, are you okay? Dig into that. I think partially because he knows these people, they're really close friends, and he wants to make sure his friend doesn't become like the people who hurt him, but he also just cares about the other person who's potentially getting hurt.
Wow. I need to see this. Like, I was so disappointed when it was sold out because I had every intention of going yesterday.
Mm.
I was really interested in being part of that discussion
for
afterwards.
you because that sounds like it would have been just such a great way to experience this.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the first-hand account, and then you get like additional perspective with the three of them were all there, obviously, because they live here. But yeah, it would have been a great opportunity. But I don't think that's the end of Minding the Gap as far as screenings in Rockford.
Right.
At this point, I'll probably watch it on Hulu, which is where you watched it, I'm assuming.
Yeah. It's not quite the same as seeing it like on the big screen, but it's a close second.
It's a Hulu original.
That's really exciting.
Yeah. I want to say Bing, he's the director. He graduated from the same college I went to here in town 10 years ago, I want to say. So like he got his start in filmmaking at the same place I did. And it's
kind of an interesting like the parallel I drew earlier about like us kind of forming our own like family through like gaming. So Smash Brothers is kind of the start of us making films and kind of pursuing that passion in life. And that it's the same thing with him and skating. He got into film by filming all the moves they were learning and just kind of making those like little mashups of all the sick moves they were doing. And so it just kind of built from there into eventually making a documentary about the whole thing.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of found footage too, so like it all got used.
For those who are listening to this podcast, it's Minding the Gap, currently available on Hulu, directed by Bing Liu. Is that how you say his last name, or Liu?
I think so. I think so.
Dream Drop, I don't know him personally, but we went to the same school. Not at the same time.
Yeah.
Our town isn't that big. I mean, we're big, but not, like, huge.
I don't know them. I've never seen them, but one, you really get a good sense of, like, who they are, and you feel like you know them, but also, like, having that connection to where they're at. I can almost connect more to it because I've seen people like them, and I went to school with people like them, and probably people that they end up skating with, or
it's interesting. Like, before I was really hearing about this movie, like when it was done with its festival run, Mchale and I were doing a lot of Pokemon Go. We usually do it, at the river park, but this one time we decided to go into downtown. And we circled most of downtown, and there was a particular area where there was just like a big group of like 20 kids on bikes. And when I say kids, I'm talking teenagers.
They're kids.
Bikes, and I saw another group of kids recording a skate movie. So that group is right there in the heart of downtown. I don't know if it was like the same piece of a larger group, or maybe if they were inspired by what they were hearing, but it's cool.
I mean, it might also just be, same exact story, just next group, the next generation of it.
Yeah, for sure. So if you haven't seen Minding the Gap, or you haven't heard of it, definitely give it a watch on Hulu. I definitely look forward to seeing it for myself. And if you want to know what our hometown looks like, you're going to get a good look at it.
I'm really hoping that, like, ultimately the Rockford experience kind of changes, and in part because of this film.
Me too.
There's one thing that you hear a lot that I know personally that I thought a lot growing up, and it's I don't want to get stuck here. I don't want to get stuck in Rockford. And so that actually really hits hard. I don't know why, but it just does,
Being someone who's lived here for my entire life, especially like all of my involvement in first-person perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a real concerted effort, especially downtown, to make this a place worth staying.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the next 10 or 15 years, Rockford is going to look a lot different than it does today. That's my hope, in a good way. But enough about that. What else did you watch?
So last but not least, I on the same list that I found Laggies, I found Imperial Dreams, which stars I'm gonna butcher this, John Boyega. However you pronounce the
I think
dude
it's
from
Boyega.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's a father who, at the very start of the film, he gets out of jail and he goes back to the hood, back to his son, and it's a lot of. In prison, he discovers writing, and he's working on a book. He wants to be a writer, and it's him trying to get away from the thug life. It feels so weird to say that, but
I know what you mean.
Like the first thing that happens to him when he gets home, his uncle tries to force him to drive a car full of drugs to a different town, and so he keeps stating over and over again, look, man, I got a kid. I'm trying to take care of him. I'm trying to do the right thing. And so this whole movie is kind of him trying to get away from the life that the person he was before jail, and crack down and take care of his son and focus. You find out very shortly into the film that his wife is also in jail while he was in, and she was trying to take care of their son. I guess at one point, like, their food stamps didn't come through. And so in order to feed her kid, she, I'm assuming, had to steal and got caught and, thrown in jail.
Right.
And so you can also see a lot of like him trying to protect his kid from the world around him and trying to kind of shield him, be that shield.
Yeah.
It's a really sweet film. It's also kind of sad and a good deal bittersweet. But ultimately, like, I definitely would recommend it, and I do think it's worth watching. Because while it's kind of, it's real, it's honest, but it's also very optimistic and a hopeful film. And I think that's something that the world needs.
Yeah, I agree. You'll get a lot of movies that focus on the realities of hardship in life, and, they don't perceive like a hopeful future, but you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't.
The one thing I like about this movie is that every time the world around him kicks him down, he still refuses to change. And a lot of movies like this, you eventually see like the main character break. But I appreciate that, this person has resolve. And it really, like, it gives the protagonist a lot more character. He's sticking to his guns. And by that, I mean not sticking to his guns. He's on parole. You can't have guns, man. He'll go back to jail.
We don't want that.
But if you're on Netflix, check out Imperial Dreams. Highly recommended. But other than that, that's it for me this week.
All right. That'll shift us over to the anime segment of the Breakdown podcast, where we talk about all the animes that we watched over the last week. There's this one I've been really excited to talk about. If you're watching last week's show when we had Devin Larson on, he was talking about going out to see Night is Short, Walk On Girl, which is a film directed by Masaki Yuasa. It's an animated romantic comedy, and I believe it's based on a novel. Yes, based on a novel written by Tomihiko Morimi. So, a little bit of backstory. This movie had 2-day showings, like, in U.S. theaters. And I had made a date with my wife to go see it.
Aww.
And she forgot. She went to the Y to work out, which is good. You know, good on her for doing that.
She made a good life choice.
But she had completely forgotten about going to see the movie. And, I mean, that's okay. Like, I don't have a great memory just at all. I have a tough time remembering, like, fine details or even broader details about certain things.
But you remember the important thing, which is that you're going to see the movie.
Yes. So we missed the first 20 minutes of the film, which is a lot of a movie to miss.
Yeah.
To put that in perspective, when we showed up and I sat down, I was witnessing young adults and very old men completely smashed drunk, bar hopping, and they were doing this dance where they were like bent all the way over, chests nearly touching the ground with their butts shooting straight out into the air, and they were waddling and just like dancing, going from bar to bar and drinking. And I was like, I don't have any idea what's happening right now, but this is fantastic.
That's great, honestly.
It took.
That sounds amazing.
There was this character who I didn't really have any, perspective on or who he was, and he was trying to get the main male protagonist to like help him accumulate erotica. He had a collection he was very proud of. Ultimately, one of the older guys drinks so much that he vomits all over his entire erotica collection and ruins all of it. Meanwhile, I'm just along for the ride because I don't have a clue what's happening. So with that, I eventually come to discover what the plot is. The young man who is being coaxed into helping this old dude find erotica has a crush on this black-haired girl in a red dress, and they go to university together. I think that was part of the context I missed out on, but he is trying to win her heart.
Oh,
just a very sweet, true love, romanticized, love story. So with that, the story takes place in one night, hence the name Night is Short, Walk On Girl. The novel takes place over a single year, with stories taking place in each of one of the 4 seasons. So what the director did is he took all 4 stories and turned them into vignettes taking place over a single night in these people's lives, which is a fantastic approach. The way he pulls it off is just really good. And you just kind of see his attempts to make her fall in love with him. And the reason I keep saying he and him and not giving you a name is because they don't give him a name. They don't give the black-haired girl a name either. His name is Senpai. The girl's name is Otome, which apparently is Japanese for girl with black hair. What's interesting is Senpai is trying to get the girl to notice him and not be noticed himself,
Wow,
or really not the reverse. Yeah, it was cute. But there's these 4 little stories with just an ensemble cast of characters and how their lives intertwine and what they do. Everything is completely and utter nonsense. This movie is bananas. Like, it just throws reason and logic out the door and does whatever it wants. In the second vignette, Otome, right at the end of the first vignette, I should mention this, they lead into the following story by introducing elements that will happen in the next story, like just as background pieces or very quickly mentioned things, and then become a full-on story in the next part. It's really well crafted in that sense. But Otome has a book that she read as a kid, like a little children's book that she wants to find, and Senpai gets recruited by this campus security that has like cameras all over the school, has detailed notes about what people like and their interests, and he happens to know, or the leader of this band happens to know, that Otome is after this book. So Senpai decides it's going to be his goal to go to the book festival, happening during the school festival. The whole night is a school festival, and obtain this book for her. Otome goes to the book festival too to find it for herself, And as she's talking, she has this dialogue in her head, or I guess you'd call it a monologue, about how she's having a hard time finding it, and it must be the god of, like, books that are hard to find that's keeping it from showing up for her. Just, like, these really ridiculous reaches in logic. And then you come to find out he's a real character. He runs in to Senpai and, like, starts messing around with him, annoying him, and Senpai's getting tired of him. Senpai eventually ends up with his pants down and an ice cream cone over his area, and then almost gets arrested for child molestation. But enough about that. The kid eventually ends up with Otome, and he reveals that, you know, he's the god that she was imagining, and he's gonna help her find this book if she helps him set all the books free, because there are book collectors who are just keeping the books on shelves, you know, attaching really high prices to them and not actually reading them, and he wants to put a stop to that. You come to find out that the book Otome wants is in one of these such collections, and Senpai goes on a journey to retrieve it from her. You come to find out that the man who owns it is a guy that she got into a drinking match with in the first vignette. I know, Conman, there's a lot. I'm just trying to give you, like, one little vignette to give you an idea what this movie's like. He goes into the tent, and the old man is going to give one of his books from his collection for free to one of the gentlemen who happens to survive his challenge. His challenge is for them to eat incredibly spicy meat and be, like, the last man standing. And I'll put this animation in perspective for you. They're in a completely red room, sweat dripping down their faces, and when they take a bite, the glob of meat is, like, bigger than their heads, and their mouths just expand all the way around the meat, kind of slurp it up and swallow, and then their lips become really big and you know, like, swollen because of how spicy the meat is. Eventually,
this sounds incredible.
This movie is fantastic. Eventually, he wins the challenge, gets the book, but then the god of, you know, books that are hard to find, or whatever his name is, shows up, dismantles this man's collection, and uses his magic powers to make all the books go back to the book festival for sale for cheap, including the book for Otome. He is grabbing it in his arms, and it is flying him back to the book festival on his head, dragging onto the ground. And Otome walks by and just sees this happening, and she's like, "That's the senpai I keep running into on accident." Otome has, like, no indication that senpai even exists for the majority of the movie, so it's really cute to see him show up and her to have no idea who he is. Really adorable. That is one vignette in a series of 4 that do some really ridiculous things. The third vignette is my favorite, and I will save that for after you guys have seen the movie. That's my...
Hopefully I can see that soon, because I really want to know.
So you can see the reason I had to give you so much detail is because you would have not... There's no way to explain this without explaining
it. You can't put that into one sentence.
No, you can't.
There's no way you can put that in one sentence.
As far as, like, everything else, the art direction is so beautiful. It's, like, very simple in the character designs, but it exudes so much personality. Characters are very round and loose, and they can move, you know, a lot. Like the Pokemon Sun and Moon anime, which adopts a looser art style to allow for various expansive animations. That's what this movie does. For the whole time I was watching the movie, I was like, I don't know if I like this. And then by the time I was done, I think I love this. So it's called Night is Short, Walk On Girl. I imagine you might be able to find it online because it came out in Japan last year, and the version I saw was subbed. I'm not so sure this movie's going to get a dub because I don't know how much of the humor would translate. That said, give it a watch. You're going to have a blast. Just know that it is incredibly wacky, and there are no rules.
That's my favorite type.
Yeah, to everyone in the chat's like, what is happening? Yeah, that's the movie. Have a good time. It's great. On top of that, I also watched Pokemon. Twitch.
Was that Tamer?
Yes. For those of you who don't know, Twitch for the rest of the year, I believe, is streaming a marathon of Pokemon. They're going to do 8 hours of episodes every day, and then they're going to do movie nights on Sunday mornings. But they're calling it movie night anyway.
Oh.
But so yeah, I sat around for that. I watched like 7 or 8 episodes of Pokemon, and it's a good show. Glad to go back and rewatch it. Aisha says, I was with you for like 2 seconds, and then I lost it. Yeah, not surprised. John says, I feel like dropping a tab of LSD to enhance the experience. Yeah, it's something else.
I have to watch it now just to compare to, like, if I enjoyed the movie's version of that better or your explanation of it better.
I probably did it a disservice because it is a lot crazier than I managed to describe it. Just so many like quick, subtle, hilarious jokes, and then there are a bunch of jokes that are just in your face and ridiculous and shouldn't work, but they do anyway. So good. Yeah, Conman, I believe it goes to the rest of the year because they're only handling 13 episodes a day. So that's a lot of stuff to cover. But that's the anime I watched this week. Throw it to you, Paul.
Oh, okay. So, I watched My Hero Academia. I don't want to go too deep into that because I know you haven't caught up yet.
Sorry, guys. I didn't have
Are
the
you
time.
2 episodes behind now, or
Yeah.
What was the last one you saw?
It was when the girl was pretending to be Ochako and Midoriya figures it out.
Gotcha.
So I am a couple episodes behind.
Well, if you watch the next 2 episodes, then you're done with the first part of the exam.
Oh.
So you don't have too much further to go.
Okay. Good to know.
On the other list of anime that you're not caught up on that I don't really want to talk about, Boruto.
Are we still in filler?
Yep. But I think this is a one shot, and I believe it's over for the most part.
Oh.
But it involved, Might Guy, Rock Lee, and Metal Lee.
Oh no! I need to see that.
So it's a fun episode.
I need more Might Guy
that's
and Rock
all
Lee.
you need. Hopefully that's all you need to go and watch.
Oh
this.
yeah, that's more than enough.
I thoroughly enjoyed this episode, and I wasn't sure, but I definitely did.
I'm excited to watch it now.
So for my real anime this week, I sat down and I finished watching Toradora, and I got to the feelsy part of the series, and it made me sad, but also happy because it's one of those bittersweet type deals.
Yeah. Those feels escalate real quickly in that show.
Yeah, it goes 0 to 100, just like halfway through. But I kind of forgot a lot of like how it ended, other than like the very last scene of the show. I remembered that, and so I kind of forgot a lot of the small details. But I remember why this series like ranked so highly for me, because it really does get heavy. It is not quite to like a Clannad's level or Your Lie in April.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be, but I think I like this one not more, but on like the same level as those other two, because it's also lighthearted in ways, and like even in like the realest of episodes, I was still laughing hysterically by myself, which also reminds me, like, when something makes you laugh out loud when you're by yourself, it might actually just be really funny.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I'll watch a lot of comedies alone, or I had in my youth, and I didn't laugh out loud, but that didn't mean I didn't think it was funny. But to laugh out loud alone, that's when like, that's golden material.
That was every single episode. So, again, like, if you've never heard of Toradora, and, you just like good anime, which you should, watch it. Whatever you're doing, just drop it and start watching it instead. You will not regret it. I promise you.
Looks like Conman in the chat. He said, Toradora was so dang good, man. Holy crap, that was a ride. Soundtrack, though. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's definitely one of those shows I want to give a second or maybe even third watch. I might even want to just pick it up on Blu-ray.
Eventually, I definitely want to own it. It's weird because it's one of those episodes. I found it on like a list of like top anime, or I think it was probably like 2 years ago that I was looking for just like hot new anime, and I found this one, and it was one of those times where you sit down to watch a single episode and then you watch the whole series in a night.
Did we watch it the year it aired, or when did
I
we
want
watch
to.
it?
It was definitely done airing, but I feel like it was we started shortly after it finished.
Oh, yeah, that
Unless
was
it was
like
just still popular.
that was like the first year I was like actively seeking out like currently airing shows that people were enjoying.
Mhm.
And I guess that must have been one of the first ones that you looked out for.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely fantastic show. Highly recommended.
But with that, I'm all out of anime for the week.
Paul, I'm going to throw it to you for games real quick since you got the one.
The one. So I've been working on the next episode of Busy Gamer Guide, and spoiler alert, I'm taking a look at Bomber Crew, which recently, was it recently? Or is it now not? Does recently still work? Because I feel like it's been a while.
Last month or the month before?
Then yeah, recently. It dropped on Nintendo Switch, but I think at the same time, didn't it release on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One?
Yeah, it did.
So our friends at Curve Digital hooked us up with a review copy,
Thanks,
which
guys.
Brendan was playing. After seeing his like playthrough of it, I decided to just go or jump on Steam and pick it up.
Videos on the channel.
And I put like 4 or 5 hours into it this weekend, and I had a blast. Heh. But I also had a lot of heartbreak. I am not good at managing my crew. And like
It hurts.
On several occasions, I crashed my plane over stupid things. Quick life lesson, or I guess game lesson for you. If you decide to play this, get more than one fire extinguisher in your plane, because like at least 3 different times my plane crashed because there was fire on both sides of the one fire extinguisher. There was nothing I could do. The only person that had a chance of getting to it was the like the mid gunner. But when he dropped down and picked it up, before I could get him to actually start putting out the flames, he died
from the flames.
I had a lot of times where like I would go to send people to the fire extinguisher before it was completely surrounded, and they wouldn't move, which was weird. Like if I have any complaints about the game, it's probably that like the few times that my crew has been unresponsive in situations like that and have caused me to just like lose everything.
Yeah, that's not good.
I've been through, in like 4 or 5 hours, I've been through like 6 to 8 crews.
You have not had the opportunity to get attached.
Dying. They just keep dying.
Well, it's like with me. Logan was my first casualty, and the saddest part is I'm the reason he died. Never nosedive when you have a crew member on a wing.
Well, also never change altitude. I learned that one. Except I did witness my engineer fall off. To be fair though, like in that situation, it was already going downhill well before that. He was like one of 4 people left alive. It didn't even matter to me at that point. I'm like, everyone's dead, screw this. He's bye.
It's a lost cause. We're done. It's over.
The most heartbreaking thing that happened to me though, I decided in between or after the first critical mission, and I think probably my 4th crew wipe, I decided that I would spend some time just doing like random missions to help like build up my plane and get some experience onto some of my new crew.
Mm-hmm.
So after like 2, maybe 3 hours of this, I really jacked up my plane. I got my crew just straight beef. They all die. Fire on both sides of that fire extinguisher, because the one thing I forgot to upgrade was more equipment slots and more fire extinguishers.
It hurts. It's a
The
painful
nice
experience.
thing about the game is that, like, depending on your amount of what is it? Intel? I think it's Intel. Depending on the amount of Intel you have, when you lose everyone, you can get better stuff starting back out. It won't be where you left it. So, like, my planes start coming, like, better and better. After the first one, like, the second plane I ever had like no armor whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the last plane I got came equipped with like Mach 2 armored everything.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so to a degree, like, it still hurts.
They set you
It's not
back,
the end
but
of
it's
the
not
world.
permanent.
It's not as far as it could have been.
Yeah.
They're very, very dead, Brandon.
I know the feeling. It was worse for me when, like, I was the pilot of my plane, and when I died, I felt that in my soul.
I didn't name my people, and it still hurt. I can't even imagine how you feel, because you named everyone. You attached yourself to everyone.
Yep. Had to bring out Logan 2.0.
I really wish I could go back and, like, if I could change anything in this playthrough, I would change the naming convention. I would have given them all normal names, but I would have given them a number, just so I could keep track of which one I'm on.
You could, like, slightly detach from them emotionally, knowing they're only a number now.
At that point, it becomes a game to kill them instead of help them survive.
How high can I get?
New high score!
So when can people expect that next Busy Gamer guide?
I'm trying to get on like a bi-weekly schedule, so I believe I'm planning this one to go live on September 6th.
Okay.
So a week from Thursday.
Right, the day before Spider-Man comes out.
So mark it on your calendar. You get, help you pass that last day before Spider-Man.
Something to look forward to.
I definitely planned it that way.
I understand. Like, once Spider-Man's out, you might not hear from me for a couple days. So, excuse me. I took a trip to GameStop over the weekend. I wanted to look at some PS4 games. And I ended up going home with two. I went home with Shadow of the Colossus and Kingdom Hearts 1.5 plus 2.5 HD Remix. I have them separately on PS3.
But that's on PlayStation 3. That's last gen. Ew.
Well, yeah, that's part of the problem. I wanted to upgrade because playing on my PS3 was actually, like, actively keeping me from playing the game. Because I hate my PS3 controller. And I believe the game runs in 30 FPS on PS3. On PS4, I get to play with my really nice PS4 controller on my 4K screen, and the resolution's bumped up to 60 FPS, and it's been really nice. The Nintendo Stuff podcast isn't going live on Spider-Man Day.
There's a solid chance, and at the very least, like, I'm gonna get. It's a solid guess that Logan won't be here if we do it.
Can't believe you, Logan. There's gonna be a Nintendo Direct that week, and you're gonna have no choice. That's what's gonna happen.
Decided.
Yep. Watch it come true. I'll get back to Kingdom Hearts. I at first I really want to talk about Shadow of the Colossus because I beat it over the weekend.
Oh wow. It is a short game.
It's not a long game. For those of you who don't know, Shadow of the Colossus came out in the PS2 era of games, and features you, a character named Wander, your horse Aggro, and you're trying to bring your significant other back to life by this deal you have with these godly voices. Whatever. Essentially, the voices want you to slay 16 of these colossi in this cursed land. And after you do that, they will repay the favor by bringing your loved one back to life. So that's the basis for the plot. They give you that, and you kind of get right into it. There's a really cool feature When you're out in sunlight, when you point your sword up in the air, light will reflect off of it and shine in the direction that your Colossi is, the one that you're supposed to be facing next. So you throw your sword up in the air and you follow the light source to the Colossi, or the Colossus. And the Colossus are really huge, like giant creatures that you have to slay. They're kind of doing like the David and Goliath thing, you know, where you're fighting a giant with just a sword and a bow and arrow. But you have to climb on their bodies, find their weak points, and then stab the weak points with your sword in order to kill them.
How do you indicate a weak point? How many eyeballs?
You don't. No eyeballs.
How yellow is it?
There's nothing. You have to find it.
Oh, wow.
There is a feature where if you throw your sword up in the air, or you point it up in the air, and you shine your light will point at its weak point at the moment. And if you shine your light on it long enough, it'll reveal the weak point with like a bluish color so you can see it, but it will disappear after a few seconds. So your job is first to figure out how to get on its body, because there's a puzzle element to that. Some monsters or some colossi will be too tall, and you have to figure out what the entry point for them is. And then after that, once you're actually on the Colossus, you have a stamina meter for how long you can hold on to them.
Zelda.
And yeah, and in that time, you have to figure out what the weak point is, get to it, and slay the beast. It's an incredible gameplay loop. Each of the 16 colossi like have a different defeat solution. They're all different shapes and sizes. There is one that they do reuse, which is kind of disappointing, but the way you beat it and the way you fight it is completely different than the one prior, so it doesn't feel that, it doesn't feel that bad. The process of figuring out, one, how to get onto the Colossus and then how to defeat it afterwards is so rewarding. You feel incredible when you manage to take these guys down. And the music is really swelling up. The Colossi are like swinging their bodies around, and poor little Wander is hanging on by two hands, and he's getting flip-flopped all over the place, and it would not be like a great experience to do personally. But it's very big, very bombastic, and it makes you feel good. And I think that makes up for the fact that the game is so short, because the gameplay experience that you get in the first place is so strong. I can definitely see why this game is so highly regarded by so many people, because it deserves it. The remake is fantastic. It's absolutely gorgeous, runs in 60 FPS. So, Krispy Kreme smoothness.
I'd say sold, but I've had a copy on my shelf for a long time.
If you're looking for a busy gamer game, Shadow of the Colossus is a great choice. I beat it in under 6 hours.
I'll definitely probably do that at some point. I just don't know when. I got other pressing things coming up, because this is the year of great games, and it just doesn't stop.
I played the game on normal mode. After I beat it, I think maybe I should have bumped it up to hard, because I only ever died to one Colossus.
So I need to play it on baby.
It's kind of easy. So I might recommend putting the difficulty up a little bit. You do unlock a new game plus after the fact, so if you want to go back and play it on a higher difficulty, maybe there's your opportunity. But then again, like I said, it's a little under 6 hours is how long it took me to beat. So it's not a commitment by any means.
Right.
But fantastic game. A really good story, despite how little of it there actually is. Great payoff at the end, so you want to get to the end. Stick around, because there's a lot of exposition after you're done.
Yay!
Speaking of exposition, I was talking about Kingdom Hearts. I've picked up this collection having already, gotten through Kingdom Hearts 1. I say gotten through, my wife played it.
I was about to say, I was going to call you out.
I talked about it on the show before. So I started up Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, and, I've heard all of the criticisms of this game and how, there's a card battle system and it's not like the other games. And I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. about an hour and a half or 2 hours deep, I was having a really good time. I think the combat system is really fun. Like, once I started figuring out the cards and how you have to play cards of a higher value in order for it to stick, and just how all of that works, it's so cool. I was really getting into the battle system, which is a complaint I had with Kingdom Hearts 1. I didn't enjoy the battle system. So when I get to Kingdom Hearts 2, this is going to go one of two ways. I'm either going to like it just as much as Chain of Memories, or I'm going to hate it and realize I only like Chain of Memories. Hopefully it's the first.
Yeah, because if you don't like Kingdom Hearts 2, like I said, you're dead to me.
Yeah, I think Chain of Memories is fantastic. Dream Drop mentioned it was made in under a year, I think. It was released the year after, or Chain of Memories, I should say. It was released a year after Kingdom Hearts 2 on PS2. So there's not a ton of cutscenes. Like, when you're actually in the world or the Disney worlds, it's all text-based, all of it. But then you go back out to the Castle Oblivion, and then you get cutscenes in Castle Oblivion.
That's kind of disappointing to me, though, because I can't read.
That said, if you played Kingdom Hearts 1, you know the story of every single world in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories. Hence its name, because it's all the same. So I'm currently, in my opinion, playing the better version of Kingdom Hearts 1. Looks...
That's at Babo Babs on Twitter.
Hey, at me. The game is really sharp from a visual perspective. Like, I'm sitting like a good 5 feet away from my TV, and it's 55-inch 4K, and it is crispy. I don't see pixels at all from that close, and that's pretty fantastic. And I don't believe the PS4 version, or the PS4 Pro, actually bumps the resolution on that. So I do have my PS4 turned on to boost mode, so I think that might be helping me out. Not sure, but it looks nice. That's all I can really say. The plot hasn't moved a whole lot yet. I'm 6 hours deep, and I believe it takes about 24 hours to beat. Still
sounds about right.
I'm still playing as Sora, and I know at some point you play as Riku. Dream Drop's asking me what my favorite Organization 13 member is. I've only met 2, and so far I like Axel a lot.
As you should.
Axel for the win. I guess I found the crowd favorite. Yeah, so I'm really excited to delve into the story a little bit more, because I really don't know anything about Kingdom Hearts outside of the first game. Except for a little bit of Dream Drop distance. I did experience a little bit of that on 3DS because I watched my now wife beat that game. So I know what happens at the end of that. And I've been interested since then, just never really took the time. Even after buying 1.5 and 2.5, like I, played Kingdom Hearts 1 and just stopped after that. But so far, like, my experience with Chain of Memories, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go the whole way. Because it's all I could think about today was just playing more Kingdom Hearts. So I think you could say I'm a fan now.
Congrats.
Yay.
I remember lending you my PlayStation 2 in high school with my copies of the games, and it just sat under your bed and played for so long.
I did play like 8 to 10 hours of Kingdom Hearts 1. I don't remember where I stopped.
Played a lot.
That was a hard game for me to get through.
Yeah.
But if Kingdom Hearts 2 and beyond or anything like Chain of Memories, and I know the combat is, not anything like that, I think I'm going to have a good time. I wasn't sure I would like the whole thing where you have to generate a room using cards, but there's actually a lot of strategy in how you plan that out, and I found myself really getting into plotting out my course. Not something I was expecting to like.
How much scrap paper do I need to have around for, like, algorithms?
Well, there really isn't any algorithms because you generate the rooms on your own.
Everything is an algorithm, Brandon. Everything.
Oh, do you know about premium cards? You played it on Game Boy, right? Or Game Boy Advance?
I played both versions, and I just never made it very far, so I have no idea.
Okay, well, you can transform your cards into premium cards, and the game doesn't tell you what that means.
Ooh.
So I had transformed almost my entire Keyblade deck into premium cards using a premium room I had found, only to find out after the fact that premium cards cannot be reloaded back into your hand. I had to fight the first 3 bosses without any combat cards at all.
How do you do that?
I don't know, but I did it. Like, for the bosses I fought, if you don't have any cards, they will just, like, spawn a green Mickey card, like, every couple minutes, which, you know, gives you the ability to get other cards. So, like, I was slowly building my deck back up during combat. The worst thing of all is I also made my heal spell a premium card.
Oh, no.
It made that first 2 hours actual hell. It was very difficult, but I came back. Mchale and I didn't find a shop until 3 worlds deep, and I'm not kidding about that. Because you have to generate them by using a shop card, and I didn't pull a shop card until 3 worlds into the game.
Wow.
It was rough.
Sounds like it, man. So don't go full premium.
Actually, just don't use premium cards, because they kind of are awful. The only thing they do is they drop the card power, or the card points value of your card down, so you can put more cards in your deck. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
At most, I have like 1 premium heal spell that I keep in my deck in addition to 2 others because it has a high point value, meaning that, you know, the monsters can't cancel it after I use it, which is a real pain if you have a lot of low number cards.
Yeah.
You spend like under an hour in each world if you just kind of bum rush it. So like I'm 6 worlds deep and I'm less than 6 hours, or no, I'm 6.5 hours in. So you don't spend a lot of time in each place, which is kind of great because there's not a lot of variety in each world. Because all the rooms kind of look the same when you generate them. But I kind of like that so far. You've got 3 story rooms in each world. When you get to the story room, you watch a cutscene. Maybe you fight a boss. And then it gives you the key to the next story room. And all you have to do is find the story room on the grid and then open it. So it's very briskly paced. And I kind of like that about it so far.
Well, that kind of makes sense since it's kind of a remake of a mobile game.
Yeah. And I think it works for this game, especially since so much of the game is just Kingdom Hearts 1 again, including the bosses, which are actually just Kingdom Hearts 1 bosses again. So I think it's been a great experience for me so far, playing a game that I'm enjoying more than the original, but also just kind of playing the original. It's weird.
Yeah.
I look forward to getting to Kingdom Hearts 2 and seeing what that's all about.
I made the mistake, like the first time I ever played a Kingdom Hearts game was Kingdom Hearts 2. I started working through the prologue. I bought my copy of 2 and 1 used. So just making sure it was working. And the first thing I noticed, you second stick pans the camera around. And so when I go back to play the first game and I have to use, shoulder buttons instead of that perfectly functional second stick, it just lost me.
I feel bad for you, Paul.
So I played the game that I ultimately liked a lot more first, and it ruined the experience. At the same time, it also motivated me to beat Kingdom Hearts so that I could play too.
I think that's a good
life
motivation.
is really all about. Life is all about playing through Kingdom Hearts so you can play Kingdom Hearts 2.
And I'm doing all of this so I can play Kingdom Hearts 3.
Hopefully it's, like 2, but even better. And looking back, it's like, oh man, Kingdom Hearts 2, that game sucked. It's all about Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, if it has that effect, we'll know it's doing a good job. So yeah, I've really been enjoying my experience with that. I'm actually gonna play more Chain of Memories after the show's over. I just want to get through this game so I can move on to Kingdom Hearts 2 and see the story move forward.
I thought you were enjoying it. Way to make it sound like you're just trying to get done with it.
I still am just trying to get done with it because I have like 6 more games afterwards.
You make good points.
I know you liked Birth by Sleep a lot, right?
Yeah. I still can't really explain why. It just it was a very solid experience. Maybe not like quite on level of 2, but I enjoyed all the handhelds that I played other than Dream Drop Distance, which I can only say because I didn't get a chance to play that.
Sounds like you should pick up 2.8.
I was actually debating that because I think I've played everything on 5 and 2.5, with the exception being Chain of Memories. I'm in too deep to go back and play that now.
Well, it's so early in the plot, it almost feels inconsequential.
I mean, I was able to stitch together what was going on by playing 2, and so I never felt really compelled to go back to it. But like I said, I think I've done everything in 1.5 and 2.5, so I think I just need to get 2.8, and before 3 comes out, focus on getting through that, because that'll be everything that I just haven't played.
Is Birth by Sleep on 2.5 or 2.8?
You're asking good questions.
I can't
Hold
remember.
on. Well,
We're doing this live, folks.
walk over here.
This is a live show. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts is pretty cool. As much as smack as I've talked about it for all these years. Dream Drop, sorry, you're saying that Dream Drop Distance ain't that great, but your name is Dream Drop? I don't know how to feel about that.
Yeah, it's Birth by Sleep, Kingdom Hearts 2, and then Recoded. I need to watch the Recoded HD remastered cinematics.
Okay.
I guess.
I have a 358/2 to do next, like right after Chain of Memories, and I looked it up online, and it's almost 3 hours long.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could give my copy to you and have you play like on a DS, because I actually did really enjoy that game. The panel structure, but it's probably for the sake of getting through all these other games, better to just watch it, and then move on. I feel like it's gonna be hard though without like the context of the full game.
Yeah, I wonder how that's gonna play out. I would assume that they wouldn't have even bothered putting it on the disc if it wasn't going to be compelling, or explain.
I guess a lot of the game, it had like a mission-based format, and so you, on all the different days, you're doing different missions and whatnot, and occasionally they'll throw you a little bit of story. And so there ultimately, there's not much in the way of story, but you do kind of. You get to see a lot of these characters that you engage with more too, in a kind of like the flip side. It feels like you're seeing what's going on behind the scenes, beyond Sora in Kingdom Hearts 2.
Okay. Well, I think that'll be good perspective. I've seen a lot of people debate whether you should play 2 or 358 first, but a lot of people, to me, have been recommending just to do it in the order that it's on the disc, which would have 358 before Kingdom Hearts 2. So I think that's what
I don't know
do.
Chain of Memories, but I feel like you'll be fine watching that, then playing 2.
I mean, Chain of Memories introduces Organization 13. I've met 2 of them so far. I'm pretty sure. I imagine they are all wearing the exact same black cloak.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I also heard some people talking down about Dream Drop Distance, and I played the demo for that and didn't personally enjoy it, but a lot of that probably could have been because I was playing on a 3DS.
Yeah.
I actually look forward to going back and playing that on a full television setup.
Yeah. I feel that. I might just have to break down and buy 2.8 already.
Looks like Dream Drop says Days takes place during Chain of Memories.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do it in order of the disc. So, thanks for the input, guys. But that pretty much is our show. I'll talk more about Kingdom Hearts as I go through the rest of the games. Give you my thoughts
You'll be at it for a while.
On the story.
There's plenty of them.
I calculated like 86 hours of gameplay left before I'm done.
You have the countdown going.
I've just checked because like I've got 2 weeks until Spider-Man comes out, and I wanted to know if I'd be done before then. I will not be done before then. I'll just pick up 2.8 after I'm done with Spider-Man.
Fair enough.
So yeah, that's our show. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we will be turning the Breakdown podcast into a bi-weekly program. That said, that isn't starting right away, because next week we have Sean Chiplock, the voice of Revali, Tiba, the Great Deku Tree, Subaru Natsuki, and many more glorious characters. He'll be on the show, and we'll be talking to him about the world of voice acting, what it was like to be in the first fully voiced Legend of Zelda game, and maybe even reminisce about the Machinima days a little bit.
If he remembers.
If he remembers. Dream Drop says, don't forget to play Riku's Story and Chain of Memories. I won't, because I know it's in there. I did a little research.
Hey.
Yeah, so look forward to that. However, the week after that, assuming we don't have to reschedule, we will be dormant for the Breakdown podcast to come back then the week after that. Nintendo stuff really isn't going anywhere. We might take holidays every now and again, but that will be very infrequent. So don't worry about Nintendo stuff. We'll be here every Friday for that. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in with us. We're very excited for next week's show. I hope you guys are as well. Conman, don't let me forget to talk to you after the show's over. And with all of that in mind, guys, make sure to follow us on Twitter. You can find me at Babababs. You can find Paul at Gunnysaurus. You can follow Logan, who is not feeling too well today. He's in the chat. Make sure to talk to him. You can follow him at LoggyDoves. You can follow us as a collective at Breakroom Arcade. If you want to chat with us more, we've been talking a lot over the last couple days about Smash Brothers, about Kingdom Hearts, lots of stuff. So make sure to join our Discord server. Link to that in the description.
It's a bumping place.
Yeah, we're having a good time in there. And if you want to support us further than just subscribing and liking, make sure to check out our Patreon page. Wow, ravioli!
Ravioli.
I haven't heard that one before.
That's how we're introducing him next week.
The voice of ravioli. So yeah, if you want to help us out a little bit more, you can follow us. You can help us out on Patreon. Link to that in the description as well. So with all of that in mind, guys, I want to thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week. Actually, we'll see you on Friday, and then we'll see you next week. So don't break your backs, break in the games. But for now, break time is over.